Good morning. This is Kathleen Clow with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Friday, August 28th, 2026. Fire potential headlines include continued daily thunderstorms with elevated initial attack, as well as gusty winds in north and central areas through this weekend, strengthening tomorrow. We also see the potential for some dry storms tonight, producing lightning across parts of the central Idaho mountains. Although fuels are not critical, the combination of dry fuels with critical fire weather conditions is allowing for landscapes to carry fire efficiently. Putting that to a map today, you can see that mixed wet and dry storm potential across pretty much all of the basin, with a wetter band of moisture from kind of Sierra Front area all the way through western Wyoming. And then we also still expect to see storms on the drier side, especially across the Payette, but just up in the central Idaho mountains in general, bringing some lightning up there. And then today we also expect to see some 25 to 35 mile per hour winds across that southern Nevada area there, a little bit into Utah with some lower RHs. Going into tomorrow, we expect to continue to see that widespread storm coverage with higher precip amounts to the east across portions of eastern Idaho and Utah there. And then again, that kind of drier storm potential up in the central Idaho mountains, as well as some higher winds in the 30 to 40 mile per hour range, but coming with a little bit higher RH with the storm activity. And then by Sunday, that storm activity will have pretty much moved out of that kind of northwestern portion of the basin and will have moved into much of Utah and will be also a little bit drier than it has been. So storms kind of fading out by Sunday, and also still some continued pockets of those 30 to 40 mile per hour winds with a little bit higher RH. Looking at the past 24 hours, we did receive large areas of precipitation across the basin, but a lot of those were on the lighter side, maybe up to a tenth of an inch, but not a whole lot. Some heavier pockets in the kind of Idaho Wyoming border area, maybe up to three-quarters of an inch, and a few heavier pockets across northeastern Utah there. But overall, pretty light on the precip. And then a lot of this precip did also come with some lightning, so you can see that basin wide lightning, including a few strikes down in southern Nevada this morning. The Great Basin remains at a PL4, and over the past 24 hours, we had 18 new starts for a total of 3,294 acres and a large fire growth of 58,114 acres. Satellite this morning shows today's storm potential already across the basin. You can see heavy cloud coverage across much of the area and some ongoing lightning strikes already across western Utah. Looking at our smoke impacts over the next 2 days, we'll continue to see more localized impacts from our bigger fires in northern Nevada and Idaho there, as well as some smoke impacts coming into the kind of Sierra Front Reno area from that timber fire in California as well. But overall, basin wide, pretty light smoke impacts, just those locally heavier impacts from ongoing events. Looking at our current observed ERC conditions, you can see a lot of the basin in that 80 to 89th percentile, with some orange areas in the middle there. We do expect ERCs to lower over the next few days with this precip chance. We'll come back up a little bit and then lower again. But overall, especially for Payette, they will still remain in that 80th to 89th percentile range, so still on the higher side. And then for Jarbidge, we can see, where we got a lot of our ongoing large fires, we will see a drop in ERCs from the precip, but they will start to creep right back up as we dry out. Looking at our upper air maps in the next 3 days, you can see that low just to the north of the basin kind of creeping along from west to east, and that's bringing our storm potential and also some higher winds and breezy conditions. And you can see the dry air kind of following that precip potential as well. So today we've got lightning risk out for southwestern Idaho as well as the Payette, and really a lot of that lightning, especially for the Payette, will be nocturnal, so overnight Friday into early Saturday morning hours. And then we do expect to see some strikes across other portions of the central Idaho mountains, but they will see a little bit more precip with it. And then we still got those wind triggers across eastern Nevada there, western Utah. For tomorrow, we'll have had some precip, so we've got some greening up going on, but still those drying concerns across the west there, and also some wind concerns across northwestern Nevada as well. And then by Sunday, we'll continue to see that drying return to western portions of the basin there, as well as some continued precip for the eastern half. Looking at our wind gusts today into the weekend, you can see those gustier winds in the pinks and oranges day to day, and then intermixed between all of those, we do also expect to still see those gusty storm outflows for many of those mixed storms. Our bigger winds will be tomorrow for northwest Nevada there. You can see the pinks, and also southern Nevada as well. And then on Sunday, we expect to see some higher winds across central Idaho, as well as across Utah. Looking at our RH values, we will see higher RHs today, especially with this precip potential, but still some pockets of drier RH kind of in the middle of the basin there, as well as eastern Utah. And then up in the Payette as well, they're higher but still low 20s, which is still dry for them up there. And then moving into Saturday, we see a similar pattern with those higher RHs tracking with our precip potential and that dry air coming in on the backside, which you can really see on Sunday, where we've got our H values kind of in that northwestern half back down into the teens and even kind of lower teens across portions of Idaho there. Looking at our next 3 days of precip potential, you can see that heavier band of precip across portions of Nevada there, as well as western Wyoming today. And then that band of precip will kind of shift a little bit south and east, and we'll see our heavier precip across northern Utah there, as well as eastern Idaho and western Wyoming. And by Sunday, a lot of that precip has moved out of the western half of the basin, but we will still continue to see some higher accumulations across portions of eastern Utah there and western Wyoming as well. Looking at our temperatures, this event will moderate temperatures greatly, so you can see a lot of lower temps on the map there, even some 50s across western Wyoming, 47. And we'll still see triple digits down south on the strips, but overall we will have lower temperatures basin wide. Looking at Monday through midweek next week, we can see our next low coming in. So we're just kind of getting, low pressure after low pressure with more storm potential, and also some drier air. So you can see that drier air mass kind of tracking through the basin Monday through Wednesday, but then, still that scattered mixed storm potential coming in Tuesday and Wednesday. So you can see we've got our moderate risk out over the western half of the basin there for those drier conditions, and then a return of some breezier wind concerns for especially the Sierra front on Tuesday, and then continued moderate conditions on Wednesday, but hoping to see a little bit of precip come out of this, so maybe some lower risk across central Idaho there. Looking at our wind concerns, Monday we get a break basin wide, but we start to see some more wind concerns pop into the area on Tuesday, bringing areas of breezier winds across Nevada and Utah there, as well as portions of central Idaho. And then on Wednesday as well, again, continued higher winds for the Sierra Front region, as well as some higher winds across the central Idaho mountains, possibly for Wednesday. And you can really see that dry air coming in on the back of this. We've got teens across the western half of the basin, 11 up near Boise, and then continued drier conditions across Nevada really through Wednesday, but maybe a little bit of RH recovery across central Idaho and the northern parts of that area with some mixed storm potential Tuesday and Wednesday. Looking at our precip chances, again, you can see more precip for the eastern half of the basin, drier on the western half, but then on Tuesday, we see that mixed storm potential return to portions of Nevada and the central Idaho mountains. And it's a similar story for Wednesday with a little bit of increasing precip coverage. But again, precip will still be on the light side with this, but that will be our next shot of precip is about midweek. Looking at temperatures, again, we'll continue to see those moderated lower temperatures. Monday will be a little bit warmer, but then by Tuesday and Wednesday, we've got a lot of temps below 80 across Nevada there, especially Sierra Front, and then we'll continue to see no triple digits on the map through Wednesday. So overall, cooling down basin wide. Precip wise, we've got our heavier chances of precip kind of the next 2 days, and then as things move out, we'll dry out in the west, and then our next shot of some more basin wide precip comes in about midweek for us. To sum up our 7 day, today we've got that lightning risk, which will really be, Friday night into the early morning hours of Saturday. And then tomorrow, we've got that wind risk popping back into the northwestern portion of Nevada there. And we'll continue to see those moderate conditions across the western half of the basin really through the whole period, with some greening up occurring over Utah as they continue to get a little bit more moisture, followed by, again, some drying out for them on the back end of this as well. Looking at our 6 to 10 day outlooks, you can see we expect to see those below normal temperatures, which we saw in our map, so we'll continue to see that. And then precip wise, we look to get some above normal precip basin wide, especially across Idaho and Nevada there. That concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.